Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I want to start it off by just telling a story about the founding of Perplexity. And so, about 3 years ago, our founders had this belief that the foundational models are going to be increasingly competitive and it's going to become commoditized, similar to how storage or compute is commoditized today. And they thought that the value would come from an incredible search, as well as integrating with lots of different data. And so this was a contrarian viewpoint a few years ago, and it was called an AI wrapper, as you've probably heard that term. And so what I'm really hoping to show you today is how powerful an AI wrapper with an incredible search connected to your data can be. So with that, I'm going to jump in and share my screen. So when we think about Perplexity, um, what our primary use cases for the finance vertical is everyday search. So our users who have been on here for over a year are really replacing Google with Perplexity. And so you see a question about news events happening, and you want to go beyond the headline. And so we're taking you from a world where you used to go to Google and search through 10 blue links and look at all those different sources, click on them and read them, to a world where we go and take your query, we break it up into about 5 different types of questions, and then we go and search the web in real time and find answers out there in the web. And so here we've pulled about 60 sources. And what we do is we're finding the best sources and ranking them all. And then we're actually going in and feeding those snippets from those sources that are ranked, and we're feeding that to the foundational model that we believe will be best to answer the question. And so we're model agnostic. And so we're going to find the best model at any given time and give you an answer. So this question, there's a new German chancellor. And so we want to know, who is this person? What's their political background? Which way do they lean? Looks like he leans right, a little bit more of a centrist. And what's their stance on the US? I'm a US investor. I want to know how he is. And so now you can see all these articles are sourced in here. So you can get a really good understanding as to like what the sources that are being used to generate this response. And we've gone through 60 websites. And what I love about Perplexity is it's picking the type of news that you would probably the articles yourself. So you can ask this more questions. You can ask follow-ups about what would be the implications to US stocks. And so there's a lot of information packed in here. And so that's just scouring the web. And so our search is really powerful scouring the web. But I think what we're so excited about recently is that we've been able to do a lot more integrations with data. And so now I'm going to take you to the next step with Perplexity is you can start to ask questions about, let's say, earnings. There's a huge earnings call coming up tomorrow for NVIDIA. And so I want to go through the NVIDIA earnings from the last period, and I want to figure out what sort of guidance they gave. And here, what I want to do is I want to connect to a third-party data source. So now I'm going to connect to FactSet. And so when we're doing this, this is a really powerful tool, right? We're not just searching the web. We're actually searching an index of data that is a third-party integration like FactSet. And so we're going to search that. We're prioritizing that data. So we have like really trusted data. And so you can see what it's doing is it's going to try and find the most recent earning call for NVIDIA. And then it's going to go into that document, open it up and read it and find out what sort of metrics they guided to so that you can be prepared tomorrow for when NVIDIA reports. And so to enable a product like this, you really just have to have a FactSet subscription as well as a Perplexity subscription. There's no additional cost for it. And so what we're really selling you here is you have an incredible time save. So you're getting like almost a cheat sheet for these earnings. And so total revenue, the number, gross margins, everything you need to do, everything you need to have to be ready for the earnings call tomorrow. So really powerful tool. I'll pause there if Jenny, if you're seeing any questions in the chat and you want me to answer on this one.
Yeah, some folks are just asking, like, is there a specific, they just wanted to see how it works with Crunchbase as well, but I think you have
Yeah, let's jump into Crunchbase too. So far, I've shown you just very simple pro query. And so there's a lot of different ways to ask Perplexity questions. So for most of the time, we like to use pro search, and that matches the right foundational model to the question you're asking. But if you have like a more difficult question you want to ask, more of like a research style question, and you also want to integrate with other data sources, you can upgrade to deep research. And so this is included in your enterprise plan. And in deep research, you've probably heard about it. Um, this is an incredibly powerful tool. I like to think about this as almost like a first-year analyst. So incredibly smart. And what it does is it actually reasons when it's thinking about your question. And I'm going to connect to Crunchbase here because this is a question about recent fundings. So I want to figure out what's going on in the market, right? There's a ton of deals happening, and I want Perplexity to look at all these deals and figure out, well, what is actually like the thesis that people are investing in? It's a huge amount of work. And so deep research, this takes about 3 minutes. So we're not going to sit here and watch the whole thing. I'll show you some other things as it's being done. But the important thing to understand with deep research is it's going out there with searching a bunch of sources. Obviously, those will include Crunchbase. And then it's seeing the answer and evaluating that answer and then reasoning to think about, well, how can I improve that answer? And then it's going to go do another similar search again. And it's going to keep iterating and be really thoughtful, almost like a first-year analyst would do if you gave them this project. And so as that's running, let's jump in and do some really fast searches, right? So
Brooker
um,
really quickly.
yeah,
While we wait for that to run, a few folks were asking how to access the FactSet and the Crunchbase integration. Can you share a little bit more on what access you'll need and then how to enable that
yeah,
at a high level?
yeah. And so definitely reach out to us if you are a FactSet customer already. What you can do is you can authenticate through Perplexity, and that will enable access to that you are subscribed to in FactSet. So it's just a few clicks if you have that permissioning, but definitely reach out to us, and we can help you on that path. So another like just doing some quick searches here. Let's say, the question we always get as financial experts is, why is X stock up today? And so, AMT is, I saw it in the news, it's up today, and I would just want to figure out why. So something you would have to go into Google, again, go through those 10 blue links, figure out what's going on. With Perplexity, you get that information really fast. So we're saving an incredible amount of time. And that's the power of a pro search. So you don't really need like a deep research here. But what you're seeing is they beat earnings, incredible revenue growth, great organic growth, even in a better 2025 outlook than the market expects. And so that's powerful. But if you want to dig deeper, in Perplexity, by being not so focused on the foundational models, but focused on giving you maximum readability, we've created profile pages for all these stocks. And so you can see over different periods. You've got charting functionality in here, really impressive. But what we really love is we have live earnings transcripts flowing in here. And so if you were watching this call this morning, you could watch the transcript flow through, and you'd be getting AI generated summaries at the same time. So incredibly powerful tool to be able to go through earnings. Imagine covering multiple companies at the same time, getting real-time earnings. Or if your client asks about why is AMT up, just being able to get the answer in seconds. And so I want to also show one thing that we recently launched that we're really excited about is I've created a dashboard for you, kind of like a Google Finance, where you can come in and get caught up on everything that's going on. And so what we've done here is we've looked out at the market and seeing how everything's going, seeing how the news headlines are, and we come up with a sentiment analysis. And then we have all the live earnings that are happening. We have a written analysis that is updated in real time. We have upcoming earnings, top movers, standout movers, and explanations as to why these stocks are moving. a really powerful tool, which is slash finance. And so now jumping back into that deep research query that we ran, that usually takes a few minutes to do. This is really powerful, right? So we're integrating Crunchbase results with a deep research response. And so, you're going to get your Crunchbase results here, and you're going to see some of the larger Series A deals. And you can click in and see more of this information here, but like Safe Superintelligence raised $1 billion. That's fascinating, right? Jumping into here, now Perplexity is going to summarize all this information that it's perceived from unique data sources, but this will also work just by looking at the web as well. And it's going to come up with like, what are the theses behind all these fundraisings? So you see AI, obviously a big theme. Frontier technologies like quantum computing and robotics, huge theme, and it's going to give you specific citing back to like actual rounds in Crunchbase of companies that have raised. Sustainability and climate, right? So many different interesting themes that are happening right now that are receiving a ton of capital. A report that would have taken an analyst a couple of days to do, you're getting this in 3 minutes. So that's like a huge part of this. About 80% of the use case for Perplexity is this searching the web, searching third-party data. But I want to tell you about a new product that we've launched in the last few months that I'm really excited about. And that's called Perplexity Spaces. And so imagine a space as a bit of a silo of the web and a place that you can come in and do repetitive tasks. So let's say I'm building profiles a lot, right? Um, I want a space where I can enter any company and generate a profile in the exact way that I want it, right? I have a specific things I care about when I see a profile. And so I don't want a standard web profile. I want a profile that values my internal sources if I have them. I want it to give an output that is very specific. I care about the business description. I care about the history. I care about deals, positive news, and I'm really concerned about management. So I'm going to tell it this pre-prompt. And so this pre-prompt is great because it now is saved in this space that I've created. So now every time I come back to this space, I don't have to enter that pre-prompt that I put in here. I can just enter the company name. Think about if you're on your way to a meeting, right? And you really want to get a quick profile of a company. I can do that here. And so I think there was one that I saw in that last page. It was a safe super intelligence. Let's just use safe super intelligence startup. That one seemed interesting. I want to learn more about that. They raised $1 billion. So now when I hit this search, it's going to take into account that pre-prompt that I fed it. And it's going to, when it's going out and searching the web, it's going to give me an answer in that same format I requested. So here, you see the things, key management, recent developments, the things that I really care about, in addition to some more information, obviously source backed to all these different amazing articles.
And Brooker,
Yeah.
really quickly, in Spaces, can we clarify the types of things that we can source? Crunchbase and FactSet. Some folks are asking about specific files and links as well.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So like I just gave it a pre-prompt. So now let's jump into some other ideas. So you're like, how do I do links, let's say, for instance. So here's another space that is going to look at government websites because I'm sitting here and there's all these executive orders happening in the US at least. And it's almost like too much for me to really process. But I don't really want like the bias of news coming out and changing what's actually like coming out of the White House. So what I'll do is I'll ask Perplexity, what are all the sources where executive orders come out of? And it'll give me these links. And so here I have, whitehouse.gov, archives.gov. So now these are like, I'm siloing the web. I'm saying there's like parts of the web that are actually more valuable in regards to this search than other parts of the web. So now I can go in here and I can ask Perplexity to let's say, go through the recent executive orders. I should paste this in here. and tell me about the energy sector, right? I'm an energy sector analyst, investor, and investment banker, and I really want to know what's going on there, and I really want to value these like truthful sites. And a fun thing you can do here is you can say, actually, you know what, the web, I don't know if I trust that for this information. I only want the links. So when you select these links, I'm only looking at the links from this space, and I actually care about information that's come out in the last month. So another setting you can do is set the timing of these articles. It's because recent, it Perplexity will have to make a decision as to what is recent. And I'm going to try another mode here, which is deep-seek reasoning. Um, and why I chose deep-seek reasoning is Perplexity is going to uh, give you the best models at any given time. So right now we're seeing like DeepSeek is incredible. So we're going to give you the option to actually like directly grab that. You know, in 2 weeks, when Grok 3 releases the API, that's probably going to be the best model. And so you're going to be able to choose that as well. And so by being model agnostic, we're able to always give you the best model at any given time, and you don't have a lock-in to one particular model because it's so competitive and the costs are getting so cheap. You really want to experience every single one. DeepSeek is an incredible one right now because it does a lot of reasoning. It actually like thinks about your query and is making bets on which directions it should take in answering your query. So it's
And
grabbing all the sources. Yeah.
just wanted to add that point. I know a lot of folks ask, we don't train on your data, especially since we're not a model company and we really just want to make sure that we're providing the best and most accurate answer for your questions. I know a lot of folks have questions about like, do we integrate with CapIQ, PitchBook, et cetera? And we're only seeing Crunchbase and FactSet right now. Can you share a little bit more about our specific integrations, Brooker?
Yes. So we've launched FactSet and Crunchbase uh, if in the last month or so, and we're seeing amazing feedback from that. We're seeing a ton of interest in it, and I think back to my original point is we're really focused on search and integrating with data. So I'd love to hear like the top ones that you'd want. Even just throw it in the chat. What are your favorite ones? If it's PitchBook or Bloomberg, and we'll work to build towards that. We're really responsive to what you guys actually care about, and we're happy to build that. But
Doing a
those are
lot
the
of
ones we have now, and then you'll see we'll be launching some more pretty soon. So this one, what I love about this is, you know, we set the index ourselves. So imagine you could do this for, let's say, if you're looking at an area that's highly regulated, like the payments industry, and you're a payments consultant, and you only want to get information from the payments industry. Well, just set your index to the payments industry. And then we'll be able to prioritize those sources or only use those sources. And so you can see it found an incredible amount of information, 29 sources from these government websites. And you can see all these things are fairly recent. So there's an Energy Dominance Council, fossil fuel development, grid reliability, regulatory rollbacks. Like there's a lot of really interesting things here. You can dive deeper, ask a follow-up. Um, but I think this is one of our favorite things here. I think another one that we can go into in the spaces, just coming back to that idea of that pre-prompt, interested in is, you know, you can create, let's say if you're a banker and you have this repetitive tasks that you're doing constantly. Let's say you're looking at deals and you got to put together a tombstone on this deal. And you can do this for anything. You can get like incredibly detailed in your pre-prompt and have like very, very specific outputs. You could even upload a file that has this and ask Perplexity to always use this as a template. And so now when you search something like J&J's acquisition of Intracellular, it can go and use FactSet, it can go and use the open web, but you're getting the exact information that you want. And so you can have this for your client, for your boss. And at the end, you could export this to a PDF. You could just copy the text down here and then put that wherever you want. So you can really play with how you want the formatting to be. Within Perplexity, you can ask it to generate tables all in that pre-prompt. So repetitive tasks are saved here. And so these,
And
yeah,
one
go
more
on.
thing on sharing, Brooker, you can share this with your teammates, right? You can choose to share it either publicly
Yeah.
or even within your own team.
So now, what I think is really compelling is like you created this space, this profile builder. And so now you can share this with the team because now you created IP. And so now they can see that. And so now you can build these like all these templates and start to build IP in your organization and start to attach more documents to it. And then you start to share that knowledge with your organization. So you could invite collaborators up here in the top right, like I just did for Jenny. You can also, and so when you invite a collaborator, now they're capable of sharing or and editing your prompts. And then there's a difference between collaborators and viewers, which you can then share up here in the top right. So if I want to share this with my organization, I can do that. And now Jenny is able to see it. But she's not able to edit. So very different. And just to be clear, whenever you write a prompt like this, our default is that it's private. And so we're just given the industry we're in, we value privacy. And so we're really like everything is going to be private. So you just got to make sure if you do want to share everything in here, you'll have to share these individually. Now jumping in, so we've gone through a bunch of levels, right? We've gone through the basic functionality around searching and then gone into spaces where we can do pre-prompts and then we can add links. And so tying it all together is this space, let's call it an investment analyst. And so this is like the next layer is, well, I want to add a bunch of internal documents. And so you can manually upload documents. And we also have the functionality to connect to Google Drive and SharePoint, which will be launching this week, which is fascinating. So you don't have to manually upload these. But what you can do is you can add a bunch of your investment memos. And so here I've downloaded ARC's investment memos because they're public and I've added it to this space. And so I've got all these investment memos in here. And now I'm able to index these investment memos. And so I can ask questions like, go through all of ARC's memos on the web and in the space, and then build me a new memo for Uber based on all the public available information and write it in the same style. I can even tell it to make a decision as to if it would invest in Uber. So you're getting like a view as to ARC's memos before they even publish the memo based on their historical memos, formatted in the exact same way um, as their prior memos. And so you can see their thesis, they love self-driving, case for Tesla. And so you can see that they're actually coming up with a buy rating on this based on a similar thesis, the dual-sided network, margin expansion, growth in other markets, amazing momentum, so huge cash flow. It's just like a really compelling thesis. Again, back to that point is we're almost at this like um, first year analyst writing these reports and all connected to live pricing, coming up with valuation. So this one's kind of combining all those layers of web, third party, and your internal to build something really powerful. Again, you can export this to a PDF or copy it here. So I'll pause there on the internal data, see if there's questions.
Yeah, I see a lot of folks do have to run. This will be recorded. We'll also share these spaces in a follow-up email. But really quickly, once we shared those files for Sources Broker, a lot of folks were asking what is the security and privacy on these and how do we make sure that this isn't necessarily shared and we keep our customers' files private.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's like I think the core offering for our enterprise clients is really privacy and security. And so we've built this product on that. And so I'm just going to take you into the controls you have. And so obviously when you're adding files, we're storing it encrypted and stored that are keys unique to you. But there are some differences within the product and how we store it. When you add documents here, let's say from a local file, this is in your search, we retain it for 7 days. Now, when you add documents into a space, we retain this, the documents like in here, we retain this until you tell us you want to delete it. And some organizations, may not be that comfortable with it. And so what you can actually do is within your organization, there are permission settings that you can change. Let's see. We won't go through that right now, but there's permission settings that you can change where you can actually like permission certain users to be able to upload documents. You can permission users to be able to share threads externally. You can allow users to save any of the queries they've had. So like data retention, you could turn off any data retention. So it acts just like Google. It's not saving anything, it's deleting it immediately. So there's a huge amount of customization you can do as well if your organization wants that.
Great. And also for folks who do have more questions about how we make sure that your files and your searches are secure, we have everything shared on trust.perplexity.ai. I'll also share that in the follow-up, but we definitely have a very comprehensive overview of how we make sure that everything is secure.
And so just maybe as Jenny compile some questions, I'd love to talk to you about some of like the use cases we see that really resonate with finance customers. And so my background, I was an investment analyst at Cotu and Citadel, and I love to think about IPOs coming out. And when I was chatting with a client, they shared this prompt with me that I thought was incredible, and I'm just going to type it in here. I'm going to use R1 here, and I'm going to use the web to be able to figure this out. So just as this runs, this is really like where you should be thinking about how to get the most out of Perplexity now is like, what would you send in an email to an analyst to be able to do this work? And really spell it out. And the more detail you can provide, like first make an assessment of who the peers are. I'm trying to build this valuation model for you, eToro. Then find the valuation metrics, then find what the revenue growth would be, then figure out the proper valuation metrics to use for my company based on the metrics you found, and then make an assessment of it. So like a huge amount of decisions that need to be made here. And I'm giving it a little bit of clues, right? I'm not leaving it totally in the dark. I'm saying Robinhood should be a peer. So now we're reasoning, and so there's 86 sources, an incredible amount of knowledge it's found out there on the web, and it's starting to make like a ton of decisions to be able to do this, right? It has to pick peers, and it has to figure out the valuation of the peers. Like there's so many steps involved, and you can kind of watch this flow. And as you're watching this flow, that can help you define if you want to have like a different prompt, because you can see where it will stumble. So if you think that it's starting to choose the wrong peers, then adjust that, right? It chose Charles Schwab as a really close peer. It also has other ones that are private, like Public and Webull. But you can see it's like it's taking these steps, figuring out all these metrics, things that would just take you so long to figure out the revenue growth. What matters? I didn't really tell it exactly which metrics it should use. And then it's doing math in here, right? It's coding on the fly. And it's figuring out, well, what is the right valuation? And so it's giving you like a 4 to 5x EV to revenue, 5 billion IPO. And so now you can look back and say, well, does this sound right? What would I do differently? And then you can kind of be more of an objective observer as to like how it's coming up with it. How did this first year analyst think? Pause for some questions.
I see a lot of love and excitement for deep research. I know some folks were really interested on how sources are determined. Like, how do we know that these are the best sources for my question? And I think it would be great to show like, hey, I don't really agree with certain sources. Let's remove it and potentially regenerate the question.
Yeah, that's a great one. So a lot of sources in here. I think the first thing to notice is you can go through here and you can kind of see like which ones it's using the most. Like it's getting data from eToro Direct, that's a pretty good source. Getting data from Robinhood Direct, that's a pretty good source. Maybe, but this like Wall Street Season and this Stockbrokers one, I don't love. And you can see, so like while we may have found 86 sources, we feed all those 86 sources to the foundational model that will best answer this question. And then that foundational model is given a snippet of text from the source along with our scoring of the source. And we base it on like 50 metrics to evaluate the source. And so it's fed both those things. And then the foundational model is making a decision as to whether to include that source. So while it found 86, the foundational model may not actually like believe all 86. And so it's only going to use a dozen, and you can see which ones are here. But if you wanted to remove these, and then you can rerun it if you don't trust those sources, you can do here. And then you can also control the sources as well.
We also got some questions on prompt engineering, and also considering we have a really international crowd today, can you share a little bit more about kind of making sure we're diving into other markets, and do we clarify that in our prompt, or is that something we could do with links and sources?
Yeah. So I would encourage you, yeah, so there's a bunch there. Prompt engineering, I think like what we're trying to do is we're trying to do that work for you. We're both trying to do the work of the prompt engineering. So we're taking this query and we're building a research plan to come up with the best searches that will get you the right information for this. So we really want you to just think and interact with what feels the most natural, and we'll do the work of prompt engineering, and we'll do the work of finding the best model. Um, so I can give you some tips as to ways to do it just after, as to like what are like good questions to ask. But I would really think about talking and emailing a first-year analyst when you're trying to come up with the right prompts. And then, yeah, international companies, always tricky, right? The SEC data is super organized and really easy to get feeds to. International data, like you were chatting with a large bank in the UK, and they are trying to get financials data, and that's not as easily found. And so what is best, you could create a space on a specific set of companies, and you can go through, let's see, like the government action one, you can go through here and start grabbing specific like IR websites. Let's say you have 10 companies you want to look at, put a bunch of those IR websites here. And so we'll be able to prioritize that so you get truthful financials. So I definitely would play with the links. And then we're also definitely thinking about how we get that international data as well. That is in our product roadmap, because most of our users are outside the US.
I know some folks were asking, can we blacklist certain sources? We can't necessarily blacklist, but a space is definitely the best way to focus in your search if you want to allow specific links.
Yeah.
We're also getting a lot of questions on how do we pick the best model? Like why do we allow our users to choose different models in Pro and Enterprise Pro?
Yes, it's a great question. The way I think about it is like 90% of the time I'm in Pro. That's really crazy fast. We pick the foundational model that best suits your answer. That's amazing. What you'll see here is I like to think about it as like it's the hot new models that some of our users really want to test out and use and get a feel for. So like, DeepSeek and O3 Mini, these models are being discussed a lot. Like when Grok 3 comes out with the API in a couple of weeks, we're going to add that here. And then deep research is also something that's been really powerful and people want to test out. So I would say think about probably more like how deep you want to get. Like if you're asking what the score of the Super Bowl was, an auto is like super fast. Like that's basically if you're just like, where is this restaurant? What's on the menu at this restaurant? Then deeper is like pro search, it takes a little bit longer, and then even deeper than that is DeepSeek, and then even deeper than that is deep research. And then so we kind of give you that option here. And if you really want, let's say you're like convinced Grok is the best, you can actually go into your settings and set the model over here. Instead of it being auto, you can set it to like Grok or Claude 3.7.
Nice. I also know a lot of folks are asking, can Perplexity search things that are behind a paywall?
Technically, no, that would be hard unless you're authorized through like a FactSet or Crunchbase. We do have some like publisher partnerships with companies like LA Times or Der Spiegel or Time, where you could get access to different content. And we're trying to build that, but it's as the product stands today, it would be hard. We're working on some creative solutions. Like we launched our own browser yesterday to be able to tackle that problem.
Great. Yes, the recording will be shared. I know folks are asking, we will also share these prompts in spaces. And I think a few folks have been asking on 10K sentiment analysis. I believe that you've built a space before and added them as file sources, Brooker.
Yes, you can. There's a lot of ways. Just showing a fun prompt in terms of prompt engineering. But there's a lot of ways to do that in spaces. I would upload, like we created a fun space for Warren Buffett recently that does that sentiment analysis. So um, this one. Oh. So what you can do is you can go and upload a bunch of 10Ks in here, and you can start to ask questions about the document. So you could upload Warren Buffett's most recent shareholder letter and ask it to go through. So let's see if this will work if I connect to web. Fine. Of this. And so here I'm looking at the web and the documents in the space. I'm going to do a reasoning one here because it's a little bit more complicated. And so let's see what else does. But yeah, shareholder sentiment analysis is a favorite of ours for sure. And then as this is running, we're just going to flip flop because I know we got like 2 minutes left. And I just want to give you some ideas for fun prompts. If you're learning about a new industry, think about like SWOT analysis, Porter 5 forces, things that can cue Perplexity to give you a better answer. Think about using tables, right? Like go through, if you want to go through the FOMC minutes and compare to prior the prior minutes. Do my summary, use a table.
We catch typos. Brooker is just being diligent with keyboard.
Yeah, it'll figure out the typos and clean it up for you. So this one's running, and so you can kind of see the change in sentiment over it and the things he cares about. Running in 1 minute left, you can see how I gave it this prompt. So did an okay job. I think it's missing one meaning, but you can see it's deciding what are the key metrics. It's just a crazy decision and sourcing each of those. Just a huge amount of time. Any other questions?
I know someone asked how many files you can upload. You can upload up to 500 per space. And one section of questions we didn't quite get to is how can you get to that finance dashboard? And a lot of folks are asking if you can upload your own portfolio to analyze that.
Yes. So just type in finance, click here. Here's on the finance dashboard. We're going to add personalization. It's a little clunky right now. You go in here, and you can add your watch list here. So your stocks and crypto, you can add them here. And then in about a couple of weeks, you'll see that show up in the dashboard.